Good evening, everyone. Today is April 2nd, 2024. My name is Amy Paretsky, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Planning Board. Today's open meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2, the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29th, 2023. All members of the Planning Board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Planning Board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations in the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bill Pierce?
Here.
Anthony Zeiton?
Here.
Millie Milton?
Here.
We don't have any staff here tonight, so it's just us. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and speak clearly in a way that helps to generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call vote. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand if you're calling in by a phone. And by Zoom, click raise hand at the bottom of the screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. Okay, it is now 6:04 p.m. And first on the agenda is a public hearing, but we're going to bump it because Dick Rand will be the presenter tonight and he is running late. Do we see him? Do you see him, Bill, in case he showed up? Nope. So we're going to start with the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any additional changes?
Do not.
Nope.
No. Okay. I don't know if Carrie does. We can ask her. We can always amend them later, but I guess we'll just take a vote. Do I have a vote to approve the minutes from February 6th, 2024?
So
As
moved.
amended? Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton?
Aye.
Bill Pierce?
Aye.
Millie Milton?
Do I abstain? I wasn't present at the meeting.
Sure. The minutes have been approved. Okay, so the second set was February 20th, 2024. Any changes? No.
No.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from amended minutes from February 20th, 2024, as amended, I guess?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton,
Aye.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
Millie Milton.
Aye.
Okay, it's now 6:06. We don't have any A&Rs, lot releases, or bonds. Does anybody have any committee updates they want to speak about?
I do not.
So the town hall feasibility study finished and making the recommendation of White Cliffs as the proposed new town hall. Obviously, that is only a recommendation, but it's based on a lot of information that was gathered. There was a lot of work that went in a short 6 months to get to where we are. So I think the recommendation will be brought up to the select board after town meeting, and then some point in the probably next couple of years they'll decide when they want to start that project. But at least it gives them some disposition as far as what to do with the other buildings.
Did they come up with prices? Oh,
They-
I'm sure it's a guess, but to
They,
get to dispose of the other buildings too.
yeah, the other buildings are in rough shape, and the prices were pretty low. Like it would be about the same price to just purchase the land itself.
That's too bad.
So yeah, so that presentation will happen after town meeting at some point during one of the select board meetings.
That's great. Thank you so much. So you're all done? Does the committee meet ever?
Other than the one presentation, yeah, it'll depend on the select board. The select board could come back and say, well, we want you to, now look at this proposed option. But for the original money that was granted, this is and the original charter, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on what the plan is, or if there's a plan, or any thoughts on 4 West Main?
Yeah, well, like I said, the real estate, they had a real estate person come in and give an evaluation on on all the buildings, actually, all 4 that we were looking at, and they all have issues. 4 West Main has some structural issues that they need to deal with, as well as the fact that the floors aren't the same height on each level, and the top level doesn't have any windows except for skylights. So it's very limited on what could be done there on that property as is.
Larry had mentioned that she could foresee someone buying that for commercial on the bottom and probably apartments on the top floors.
Yeah, but even then, there's a lot of work that has to go into it because you've got to basically fix the floors.
Do you have to move them all, or could some of them have lower ceilings? Like some buildings probably have lower and higher.
Yeah, I think the real estate developer, when he went in there, it was like a 9-foot high ceiling, and normally it's 15 feet.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's a substantial amount. It's not like it's a foot off or something. And it's just the one floor, just the second floor. For
I had
some
a
reason.
friend that lived downtown, and she rented apartments in an older home, and she said that the height of the ceiling was so low, like their head almost touched the ceiling. So hopefully
Yeah.
someone could figure it out without too much,
So they determined that 9 feet was a hindrance for usability?
Yeah, because like I said, normally it's 15 feet, and you would have the either heating or something running in between the floors, right? So, given that it was a 9-foot height, there was some issues with that. I'm sure there's probably some use that could happen to it, but
Yeah.
that was their determination.
Is that building metal construction, metal and concrete?
Don't remember.
Is it what?
Metal and concrete as opposed to stick?
I don't remember if it was metal or stick. I know I was sort of surprised to find out that that 63 Main Street, the current town hall, is metal.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that leaves them a lot of options for that building.
Well, I would hope so with the big safes up on the top floor.
Yeah. You
Right.
don't want to be in the room underneath that.
I would think it had to be metal, but who knows?
The problem
Just-
is that it's metal directly on the ground. Like under the gymnasium,
Ah.
if you lift up the floor in the gymnasium, there's metal beams, and then it's just bare ground. No
Wow,
concrete, no nothing.
that's crazy.
So, that's why that building would need some work as well to just bring it up to code.
Can you see, is Dick in the waiting room?
No,
Or not yet?
I
No.
don't see him.
Hey,
I probably have to wait to read the public hearing notice till he's here, I would think.
Do we
What's
want to
our
just
next-
go to the zoning
yeah.
changes? To finish
Did
off
we
that
have-
public hearing?
Did we have any? I don't
Well,
want to.
the public hearing's still open, so.
Yeah. I didn't
I
want to
think
close it until Carrie's here at least.
Right. I
Is
think
she-
it's settled, though. We just need to close it out, right?
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
sure she wouldn't care, so we could do it, but I think she'll be here pretty soon, so I hate to do it, just in case
Okay.
she had something to say.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
There are
think.
there are two people in the attendees list, but neither one of them is Mr. Rand.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching, there was a citizens petition that was put forward, and a citizens petition for town meeting can go forward with 10 signatures to be added to the warrant. That's all you need. And if it's a special town meeting, so if it's not the regular town meeting, you need 100 signatures. So any citizen has a right to put any petition forward to the town meeting warrant. So tonight we'll listen to the citizen petition. We'll ask questions and then we vote to support it or not. Even if we should vote not to support it, it still goes forward to town meeting because everybody has the First Amendment right to bring something forward. So if we vote yes, then that means we support it and we give the recommendation to the people to support it. Whether or not they do, it's totally up to them. But if we deny it, it still goes to town meeting, but we're saying that we don't think, as a planning board, we don't think it's a good idea right now.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to, does anybody on the board have any questions about a citizen's petition? If I don't know if I have the answers. It still will need 2/3 vote, just like a regular zoning. And it will be probably one of the last ones on the town warrant, which is up to like 60 warrant articles.
Oh, it's gonna be,
Yeah, there's no
Long.
way it will be one night.
no. No. When was design review started?
I looked that up, but I don't know if I should talk about it in front of Dick but
Okay.
I did look it up today and in the book, it shows 2009, but that's when the last overhaul of the zoning bylaws were done.
Yeah.
And I went through the 2008 minutes when they were redoing the zoning bylaws, and Michelle was on there talking about design review. So I don't know. I didn't go back further than 2008, but she was talking about how they were looking for a landscape architect. At the time, they
Okay.
had a couple people. So it was either they didn't start taking minutes till 2013.
Mm,
And then there were like 5 or 6 years in a row where they didn't take minutes. And then someone's
Yeah.
like, you're supposed to take minutes. And they did them all in one meeting.
wow.
Because they just went off the agendas and said, okay, like, I don't know if they could remember what they talked about for the last 10 years. And actually the minutes went back even further than that, but by law, they only had to go back so many years doing the minutes. It's funny that they didn't think they had to do them. I've only been on it since Michelle left.
Mm-hmm.
But still no Dick Rand.
Hmm.
I guess we'll wait a bit longer. We'll wait to see if Kerry comes. But I don't know what happens. I mean, Laura's not here. If Dick doesn't do a public hearing, I guess we'll just leave it open and we could do it at our next meeting. Because our public hearing, I could read the notice and we would just continue it. Because we still have one more meeting before town meeting. I think it's just a rule that we have to open the public hearing for it. But I'm sure we can continue it if he doesn't make it tonight.
Yeah.
So
Do we have an idea of what time Carrie's gonna be joining us?
I don't.
Okay.
I just hear an email coming in from somebody. Oh, it said that Dick should be calling in any minute.
Oh, okay, great.
Of course, do you know how to add him, Bill, if he calls in?
Yep.
Okay. I've never added anyone.
Yeah, I'll just need to have him hit *9 so I can make sure that it's his phone number.
Okay, so I'll reply to Michelle and tell him to hit *9.
Yeah, once he gets into the meeting.
I did have a design review meeting since our last meeting. We actually had a meeting on site at the new fire, well, at the proposed fire station location. It was a joint meeting with the fire station, and they went over the colors of brick. Like there were 3 colors of red, and then there was a contrasting color at the bottom, which was either a dark color brick or a light color brick. And then they're thinking of doing a metal roof. So they were looking at the metal roofing materials. And that meeting was videotaped, so it must be up on YouTube somewhere. But the architects were just there with the materials.
Are there plans that have come through or projects that have come through that didn't require design review?
I think I can read it from the book. I was going to read it from the book. It's pretty much Bob and Lori decides what comes in front of design review, and it's listed in the book as,
I thought it was anything that needed site plan approval.
yeah, but new or additions. So like if you're somebody who's just like a dog groomer and you're going
Mhm.
into a building that's already built, you don't need to redesign it. We don't look at the inside of any buildings.
Right.
It's always just outside.
Yeah, I was wondering about those 2 buildings that the Durkin buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Did
I watched those on Concom, but they did not come in front of us. But those buildings were exempt from a lot of things because are they like sober homes?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
don't
are.
know, actually. It might be the use that, but I would still think they would not be exempt from site plan approval.
I think they were because we didn't get them.
We didn't get them, so that I was curious why we didn't get them.
Did that go to Concom?
It did go to Concom because I watched that. It went to Concom, but it did not come to us or design review.
But
Yeah, I
isn't
was
that
curious
typical
as to
where it comes
why.
to Concom and doesn't come to us? They render the decision? Because that's what
They
happened
do.
on Lincoln Street too.
Huh.
Because I think they can be exempt as far as use, but they still have to meet site plan approval, I thought.
You know what? Single family homes, and they were probably considered, I know Lincoln Street would have been a single family home, so it wouldn't have come to us. And I even remember Concom questioning the sober homes because they came forth to Concom as single family homes. And a person on Concom said, why do you have such a big parking lot? And they said,
Right.
the owner's allowed to have any type and size of driveway they want.
Okay. Okay. So
They said they were single family homes.
that's why, okay.
Yep. But they kind of knew that there was something more than that with the size of the parking lot.
Right, right.
So not sure how long we give an applicant, although Michelle said he's going to be on soon. I guess we'll wait till 6:30.
Yeah.
We don't have any of that Jeopardy music if we're
Yeah. Do, 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 do.
Oh, there's
I've
someone.
got a hand. Yeah, I've got a hand up, but it's Nadine Proctor.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Mhm.
can.
So I came here specifically to hear about the proposed zoning changes on the Harvey dumpster site. When might that come up?
We have one person coming to talk about the citizens petition, but we could talk to that now while we're waiting for him. Because we already went through all the proposed changes, but if you had a question or concern, we could try to answer that for you.
You went through the proposed changes, so is it a go?
No, it goes to town
Hmm.
meeting.
So
So
it goes to
there's,
town meeting and it's up for a vote
yes,
by town. So basically you're presenting the plan as approved from your committee.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So online, there's a map of the locations that were selected.
Mhm.
And then there's also a bylaw written with site plan, conditions.
I had extensive conversation with Lori and we talked about it. She kind of went through it with me. I'm very irritated about it. My neighbors here, I'm on River Street.
Mhm.
All the people I spoke to, nobody knew anything about it. I was clued in on it when I read an article in the Community Advocate, which I was taken aback and taken back to the year of 2005. 1 week after I bought this property, I went down to the town hall to do some business, and I was told by Kathy Jubit, "Oh, you're the one that bought 13 River Street. Stop and Shop's going to move in across the bank." Okay, so that was the beginning of my introduction to Northborough. And I'll tell you, I almost had a nervous breakdown. 3 years, people fought. I had to step back because it was just too stressful. And it didn't happen only because Wegman materialized. Now there's another situation going on where there's proposing for changing for housing. Once you get those zones changed, they will come. That housing will happen. We were not considered, meaning the abutters. We were not talked to. I think that's been sort of the MO of the town. I'm just absolutely furious. I moved to Northborough because it was more of a country setting. If I wanted to live in the city, I would have stayed in the city. 75 units at the rear of this property, and then more units in the front that are mixed use. Up against a beautiful river, the Assabet, that should be enjoyed by everyone, not just a few. It's a perfect place for an open space, not high density. You're changing the fabric, or you want to change the fabric of the nature of this town. I don't understand how you came up with those decisions. As far as revitalization of the town, bringing in 75 units of people to do that, or in plus, I don't know how that's going to change the or increase the revitalization of the town. This is a wealthy town as it is now. There's nothing down there. You don't even have the infrastructure. To go there and park can be difficult. You have Apple Fest. It's a difficulty for people to come because you don't have the parking. You can't even do a large type, what is it, fireworks, because you don't have the space for that. So I would say work on the infrastructure, like things like parking. I am so against this, it's not even funny. Someone said to me, "Would you rather look at the dumpsters?" Yes. My other question is, where was the town when the dumpster people came in?
Right. I did look into the dumpster and that went back. It was a short-term lease. Before the Stop and Shop application, they were gonna go away. And then when Stop and Shop was denied, the Harvey dumpsters just stayed put. So that was way before our time. But,
But this is your time.
right, yep, and we did. We've had a couple meetings on this. But it would be great if you, at this point, want to speak to it at town meeting. You could bring your neighbors. And as a board, I'm not sure if it's still open. I don't know if as a board, what everybody else thinks.
I don't think we can make changes at this point. It's already been presented to the warrant articles and they've been approved. So
Mm.
we could make changes on the floor, but that's not recommended. Nadine, I just have one question. Are you familiar with the MBTA communities law and
Yes,
why
I
we're doing
am.
this?
Yes, I am, but
Okay.
your choice of sites is poor. There are plenty of other places that this could be built, this housing, that are not going to impact residents like myself. This is the more of the working class section of town. We don't have palatial houses and lots of land, and boom, all of a sudden, You know, I've taken hit when in 2009, when they changed the zoning again, I had an area of my property that was business. It was taken away. You devalued my property. Okay, I've had a lot of hits from the town, and here we are again. I don't have the energy to rally up the people, go for the fight or whatever. It's just like Goliath against, David against Goliath or whatever. And I'm just really disappointed, and I don't want to have to monitor the town business. And yet if I don't, and did you ever think of what's the impact of this project on the property values of the abutters? Or did you think of that? Or is it you make changes, someone's going to take the hit? Someone's going to take the hit. We're going to have some people who are going to take the hit. And then that's it. Well, I'm one of those people that probably will take the hit again.
We,
None of you live over here either.
huh?
My guess is none of you live over here.
No,
Well,
No.
I think, yeah, to your point, I mean, if you live there, it is definitely one thing, but we also have some people have businesses in town. I think at some point, any type of development of that size will definitely have an impact on whether you own property or whether you have a business, one way or another, for sure.
Right, but as a property owner, I don't think it will have a positive impact. And the other thing is, I think the thought was, if the people lived in downtown, they'll walk down the street and frequent those businesses. People have money in this town. They can walk down the street. They can drive down the street and frequent the businesses. There's not a whole lot there. Okay, the French restaurant, I think, has been a success. Every time I go by, their parking lot's full. It's a wonderful business. Is Dunkin' Donuts Dunkin' Donuts probably brings a pretty good crowd in there too. But some of the others, I just feel like you guys made some decisions and didn't think of the impact of the abutters.
I hope people come to town meeting to speak. Because we haven't heard from a lot of residents, so it is really good to hear from residents, and I totally agree that it's hard for abutters because the way the public notices go out, they go out in the community advocate and they're on the website, but if you're not watching all the time, you don't see them. And I totally agree with that. A butter notice
But I don't,
doesn't go out until they start construction, if and when they do.
yeah, this, for zoning changes, I don't know that they give a butter notices, do they?
Lori
I
would
don't think
know.
so. Yeah,
Not for just a zoning change, I don't think. Like when we change our bylaws, like south, the highway business district we just did, we didn't do notices.
right.
I mean, it's like you're changing, this high density in the center of town. I didn't even know this was the center of town, by the way. Now we're talking, skyscapes of tall buildings, it's, I don't even know what to say. It's too late. And it's too late. And I'm really disappointed with you as a group and anyone else that was involved. And you have done a disservice to a lot of people in town.
It's definitely not too late, so I wouldn't give up. I'd go to town meeting.
I don't have the energy to rally this. I burnt right out with Stop and Shop and then the zoning change. I've had other hits from the town too.
Mm.
And this is number 4. So I don't even know what to say. I didn't want to leave. I put a lot of love into my property and I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Harry, do you know, just out of curiosity, do you know if other towns, I mean, I do think that there's a point there to be made that if you're doing zoning changes, why wouldn't the abutters be notified? So that they can chime in?
So the
Now
other
you're-
argument was, well, this property is, there's private owners. Well, you are now going to make this, in my opinion, make this property very easy to develop. Developers are out there. This would be a huge piece of property for them to make a really good profit on. It's a big deal. This is a big deal. You're paving the way and they will come.
Just to wrap this up, Millie, to answer your question, I think the forum for people is the public hearing notice is how people would see. So it's not just about the abutters, it's the whole town. So I think the public notification is triggered through the public hearing notice. Like we list all of our bylaws and what they are, and we have to put in the paper and things like that. So I think that's what covers it. I don't know if there's an optional type thing we could do. I think we could check into it, but I don't think there's a obligatory bylaw that we would do that. So
No,
Yes.
you don't. And I
point.
think that's a big mistake if you care about the town. The town is made of people. The people make the town.
Yep. I agree. I thought we should have less units down there myself, but it's gonna take residents to make comments at town meeting. Because if we don't hear anything from anyone, then it gets voted in.
Mm,
Well, I just can't do it anymore.
Right, right,
This
and I
is
totally
one piece,
understand.
and I hope you have some people listening to this other than you folks that I'm seeing on my screen.
Yep. You could write a letter to the community advocate too, if you can't go to town meeting. And maybe other people will notice.
I think maybe a letter would be good because I'd reach more public a few days before the town meeting. It's almost too late, you know.
Never too late, so don't give up. But we do have to continue on. If Dick Rand is here, is he here yet?
He is here. He's
Oh,
waiting in the,
Okay. But thank you, Nadine, and don't give up. Definitely write a letter to the community advocate. All right, Carrie, should I continue or you want to jump in?
Oh, go ahead, go right ahead.
It's up to you. I don't know how to, you can definitely, we haven't read the public hearing notice or anything, but we've done everything else, but.
Okay, it's up to you. If you want to keep going, no problem. I'm gonna bring Dick in. I think we have the public hearing notice from Michelle. So yeah, whatever you'd like, whichever way.
Doesn't matter. It's up to you. I have it up so I can read it, but then you can continue on, unless you have it up and you want to read it.
I don't, so I guess you won. You won the prize.
Okay. So I'll just read it and then we can move on from there. You can carry on from there. All right, so public hearing notice. In accordance with do I have to say what's on the next on the agenda? Next on the agenda is a public hearing for a citizen's petition. The amendment proposes to delete section 703-060 design review in its entirety. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 40A, Section 5, the Northborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on April 2nd, 2024 at 6 o'clock for the purpose of seeking public opinion on a proposed amendment to the Northborough zoning bylaw, Chapter 7 of the Municipal Code. The amendment proposes to delete Section 703-060 design review in its entirety. Complete text of the proposed amendment is available on the Planning Board webpage for www.townofnorthborough.ma.us/planning department. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29th, 2023. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Do I have to read that part? We already did that. Or do I have to finish it?
As published, maybe, as printed in the public hearing notice.
Okay, as printed in the public hearing notice. Okay. Do you want to take it from here, Carrie, or do you want me to continue?
Up to you. If you have all the materials, you want to keep going, that's not a problem.
Okay, well, first, I was just going to welcome Mr. Rand and ask him if he'd like to present his article and provide your reasoning for wanting to add the article to the warrant.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
We can.
Okay. The article is to remove the Design Review Committee and the entire section of 7-03-060, and to make the Design Review Committee non-existent. And the reason I wanted to present this is last year at town meeting, the planning board put forward a article to remove the groundwater committee from decisions involving the special permits and variances and so forth and new buildings. And part of the explanation was that there were no experts on the groundwater committee. It was just a committee made up of people in town, and the only expert that had any input into the meeting was the town engineer. So this year we're in a similar situation with the Design Review Committee. Right now we have a Design Review Committee. We have a bylaw that says we're going to have degreed architects on the Design Review Committee. We're going to have professionals in the building and construction type industry, and also have a member appointed from the Chamber of Commerce and a responsible person from town. So right now we have no architects on it. And in the past we've had 2 architects, and when their term was up for renewal, they didn't get reappointed. So now we have no architects. We have one person who's in the landscape business, and we have 3 other individuals. To the best of my knowledge, none of them have any background in the building, developing trades, or how this should be implemented. So I think it's a waste of time that people are bringing applications before the zoning board, planning board, and they got to be reviewed by Design Review, and there's no expertise on that board to review these articles. And recent situation is the town fire department. Has to go before Design Review, and Design Review made a recommendation that there was an outdoor eating area for the firefighters to eat in, and Design Review wanted to have a roof put over the new facility, the eating area. So the architects came back a month later with a design with a new roof, and then the Design Review Committee said, well, we don't want the roof now. So this costs a lot of people money. I mean, not only the town for its application with the fire department, but other developers come and go, and the planning board wants different colored doors. Design Review, excuse me, wants different colored doors, a different this, and different that. And these developers have to spend money with architects, and they come up with plans and come up with costs to go with all these items. And we don't have the professionals making these comments that should be there. I mean, it's just a committee that's based on people that live in town and have no expertise. So that's why I proposed this article.
Oh, Carrie, you're muted.
That's okay. Amy, question for you. Mark McMenamy, is he an engineer?
He's a design. Yeah, I think he is. He knows a lot about civil engineering. And we're actually in talks with another architect. Yep.
My understanding was he was a mechanical engineer. I mean, there's all kinds of engineers, whether they're nuclear, electrical.
No, I think he had
software.
some, I think we'd have to, we just voted him in actually, so it should be fresh in my mind, but he did actually have expertise. The name you mentioned, we're interviewing an architect. And then Dave Varon is a landscape architect.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And Lisa has an interior design background, and she went to Harvard for interior design class.
Design.
Architect. Yeah. Okay. Just wondering.
Yeah, it was design and architecture. But I just wanted to speak to the fire department. They are municipal buildings, so they were on the agenda to come in front of design review. And Dave Varon, the landscape architect, did say if you have an outdoor patio, you could have something like an awning. So they did come back with a pergola, and I know from being on the town common that with municipal funding, a pergola is really expensive. And there were 2 pergolas because there are 2 outdoor terraces on the back. So we just said that we didn't recommend the pergola. Like, we did tour Southborough, and they had a picnic table with an umbrella. So that was only our thing, is like, it was kind of something that the fire station, not that we should all be bickering, but they kept saying, well, it's expensive because the design review wanted a pergola. And we just stated at the last meeting that we actually never said we wanted a pergola, but that's neither here nor there. I looked back, design review started before 2009 zoning bylaw upgrades. I noticed in the book, they're listed as starting in 2009, but it looks like it was started right before 2009. And even back then, Michelle was on it because she was a planning board rep, and they were looking for a landscape architect for a while. And they had Tom Reardon and Tony Abu on it. And, you know, over the years, they were on it for quite a while. And then Tom Reardon had to recuse himself a lot because he was bringing forth all the applications. And you can't be on the board and bring forth business. So,
Mhm.
and it's too bad that we lost our architect, but it really hasn't been that long. And we've put out feelers for architects. And I did start looking at other towns that have design review. And some of them have in their design review that the architect only has to come when they're looking at buildings. Like say design review is looking at a sign, the architect wouldn't have to come. So maybe that would make it more appealing for an architect in town to want to join the board. So, but this was something that was started, and it was started because here I have it. This is what came from the downtown revitalization. The zoning law contains a provision for design review process. It's intended to help address issues of site design and aesthetic qualities that are known concerns in the downtown. Design review guidelines were adopted in 2012, applying to new construction and exterior alterations and expansions that trigger site plan review of commercial, municipal, institutional, and multifamily structures. And I just want to share the design review guidelines. I did send it out to the board today, and I'm pretty new on design review, so I'm not sure if any of you have ever gone through the guidelines.
Mhm.
But I know one of the design guidelines in the design review committee, they went through CVS, and Mark Donahue even spoke to it. He was the architect, and he was the lawyer for CVS. And when they first came in, it was a very different building, like think Richdale or Honey Farms. And they went through the design review process, and it made a huge difference. And even Mark Donahue himself said, you know, at the time, I did not appreciate going through design review, but the end result really makes a difference in the downtown.
Mhm.
So what we do, even if you're not an architect on design review guidelines, we meet before the planning board and the ZBA get the site plan, and we go through the application with Lori, and Lori has all sorts of input too. And we go through what's encouraged and discouraged in the design review guidelines. So just to, whether or not design review is here, I think you're going to have to pay Peter or Paul at some point. If design review doesn't go through the initial reviews, then it will come to planning board and zoning board. And then we'll just have to have a couple extra meetings. So I don't think it will save the developers any money. I just think it will change which board reviews. A lot of these aren't even guidelines. These are standards that have to be followed. So design review tries to catch them in advance to save time.
I'd like to add to that.
Sure.
I was on the ZBA for 23 years, and I was here on it when the design review was implemented. And was implemented, again, like you said, with able realtors, builders in town, Tony Abu, Michelle Gillespie, Tom Reardon, Diana Nicholas, and they were a huge help to the process. Like you say, with CVS and many other buildings in town, you know, their input was crucial, and then they made some great changes, recommended some great changes, and they did a nice job. And it was nice working with them and seeing the end product we got in town as a result of it. But without having the professionals on there, the architects and the licensed landscaper, I don't think we're getting the professionalism, and we're getting a lot of comments, but they're not helpful comments. They were in the past. It was an excellent working unit, but it's not so much anymore.
So I'd have to say, I mean, obviously as a planning board member, when I get the site plans and I see that Dave has looked at the landscaping plan and like suggested certain trees and had his input and he goes on site, I don't have time to do that. And I can't add meeting time to do it. And this is a group that, whether you like the people that are on it or not, the validity of the board itself, I think is makes a huge difference for us. I feel better when I look at site plans to have that first review. Somebody comparing it to the guidelines, I think, regardless, I mean, and I do, Dick, I hear what you're saying about the expertise. I'd love to have an architect on there. I hope we get one and we need one and hopefully we get that soon. But I don't think disbanding the whole committee makes sense. I think maybe it's a membership thing that it sounds like might be the issue. If you thought there was value in the past, maybe it's not the committee itself, but just maybe it's a membership thing that we could take a closer look at some point. Does that sound like something, maybe the root of this, or you're just thinking in general, the design review has no place, period?
No, like I said, when I was on the ZBA, it was very helpful when it was staffed by professional people that had good professional recommendations on what to do. It worked fine. It was a real asset to the town. But without having that knowledgeable person, it's like the groundwater committee. I mean, they have good intentions, and the only expert was the town engineer. But now we've got design review without the expertise that it needs.
I think with the guidelines is a little different than the groundwater. They didn't have the guidelines. I was on the groundwater before too. But if you look at the encouraged and discouraged and you read all the design review guidelines, it says no flat roofs. You should have, a porch on the front or overhang, or you need to add, a hip roof. It mentions all the things that they want from the developer. Even if you're not an architect, you can look and read this, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
I mean, if we don't have design review, then we absorb the work. Being on CMRPC, there are plenty of towns that were asking, how do we implement design review because we don't have it? So it was, for a lot of towns, it was starting over to actually implement it because the boards were stuck with all this work and it was too much for them. So I don't know if we want to go backwards. Like, this is a place where other towns are trying to get to disband it and go backwards is going to put the responsibility on this board and the ZBA. Has the ZBA weighed in on this at all? I don't think we heard anything from them. So, I mean, sometimes we meet, these meetings can be 5 hours long as it is. I don't think it's fair to disband a board that, eliminates some of that time for a couple of the land use boards anyway. I just don't know who would do it instead. I guess if not this, then who?
I mean, I do think that having an architect and people with some of that expertise
For
is
sure.
great.
Me
If we
too.
can get it, obviously. But is that part of the criteria of the makeup of the board? And maybe that, we can change to expand that to
It is
other-
actually. We do
Yeah.
have
It
it.
is.
So
It
it's just
is
we
part of
haven't
the-
found one. It's part of the makeup of the board. We just have to find the right candidate. So Dario only left like, I don't know, 3
I
or
think it was
4
last
months,
August.
August.
I feel like it was last August or September.
We're actually changing the makeup in this year's zoning bylaws.
Yeah,
We have
that's
a
what-
bylaw instead of 2 architects, it's 1.
yeah.
We added that it could be open to someone from the historical district. Lori had a lot of ideas for different people to add that other towns use.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just really quick, Amy, while you
Oh,
have this
sure.
up to sort, and I'm going to sort of play devil's advocate here, but I can see where Dick is coming from. So can you show me in this document that you have up right now where it says that for a picnic area you need an enclosed, what the recommendation was or the comment that was made by the design review that an outdoor area needs some type of roof?
they didn't ask for roof. It was the landscape architect. And he said that he has worked with different outdoor seating areas and he would recommend some sort of shade.
Okay, so he recommended shade. So again, show me in this document where it says that you need shade. This is my point, right? You've got people making a recommendation not based on the documentation that they're supposed to be making recommendations on.
Right,
So,
but
but the applicant doesn't have to do that, number one, and number two, the planning board is the final say. So we could say, no, you don't need shade, or yes, you do. I guess
Right, but
it
that
sounded
wasn't
like,
presented to us. That's my point, right? Is that what we would do, and Kerry, this goes exactly to your point, right? Is that we would just say, yep, design review signed off on it, or no, design review has these problems, so therefore you have to fix these problems. We don't even really look at it, right? We
in the
don't compare
past, we've
what,
gone against design review recommendations.
Mm.
So on 109 Main Street, they wanted certain things and we said, no, that's not the way it should be. And we've gone against it before. You haven't been on the
Right.
board at the time, but
no, but I'm just looking at, okay, so a recommendation was made. It was made strong enough that the applicant thought that they needed to fix it, right? So where in this document does it say that you need shade for an outdoor eating area? And if it
Interesting.
doesn't, then that recommendation shouldn't be made, is my point.
but that doesn't mean a whole board should be disbanded. That just
No,
means
no,
that we need
but
to
that's,
educate.
but right, and that's to Dick's point, right? Is you don't have professionals or the people that you need on this group. I'm not
But
saying they're
Dave
not
is a
professionals
landscape
in.
yeah,
architect.
the interesting thing is he was the professional.
He
It
is the
wasn't-
professional.
Okay,
who
so
would
then
you
where in
pick
this
otherwise?
document, if it's not in the document, then we need to change the document.
Or
But we
that's an
can't-
educational thing for Dave, but Dave is a professional. So if Dave's the landscape architect and that's his recommendation, and we've said he's a professional, either we need to update our document or we need to educate the people on the board to say, listen, if it's not in here, we really shouldn't recommend it.
Right,
But
and that
who,
goes.
if not Dave, not
Right,
me.
and that goes to Dick's point, right? This is exactly the same argument that we made about groundwater. Now they're bringing it up to this, and I can definitely see the point, right? Like I said, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
I know, but in this case, Dave actually is the landscape expert. That was an outdoor thing. So who else, if not Dave, was going to do that? Like in that
Then-
case, if
then
it was an
Dave-
architecture thing.
Right, but then Dave needs to make the recommendation to put it into this document,
Yes. good.
right?
and that's what we're
And
doing right
to-
now.
Right, well, I haven't seen anything go up about outdoor shade
In the
for an
last,
outdoor eating area. This is my point, right? If this is something that the town wants, right, then again, this, it's the same idea with the use variance, right? If this is something that the town wants, then it needs to go in front of the town and the town needs to approve it, right? And that process didn't happen. What happened was, and this is again to Dick's point, is that it was emphasized enough that they thought they needed to redo their drawings at expense
Yeah.
to put in
Yeah.
that pergola, and then they were told not that they didn't need it.
but the thing is, Bill, I don't know if you watched the meeting. It wasn't emphasized that much. Dave Barron is a landscape architect and he does a great job. And he just made a comment. He made a comment that I've worked on a lot of projects with outdoor terraces and I would recommend an awning so the guys can have shade.
As soon
But
as
he
he
didn't-
says, but as soon as he says recommend, that's coming as a member of that board or committee.
But did
Right,
you
but-
guys write a letter and put that in there that was a requirement?
No.
Also, are these are guidelines, not standards. So you don't have to do any of these, honestly, like unless
Right.
it's a standard.
And that was the preliminary first meeting, so they could actually say, we don't want to do that. Like, we have 2 or 3 meetings where it goes back and forth. They didn't have to put in pergolas. Pergolas were never recommended. They could come back and say, well, that's not in the budget, or we don't have to do this. It was all, and the new person who was just added, Mark McMenemy, has been working with Lori to do a check sheet. And it has what's a guideline and what's a standard. And it's going to be a couple-page check sheet, and it's going to be a rubric, and it's going to be passed out to every applicant. And then we go through the check sheet, and they do too. And they can see what is required and what is not required. And Mark McMenemy has been working on it for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
He
So-
wants to make it fair for all developers.
Right. I completely agree with that. But to my point still, right? You still don't have anything in here, and you have somebody on a committee making a recommendation, right? And they know that when that gets to the planning board, which is, I believe, in 2 weeks in our next meeting, right? That, potentially that recommendation is going to be in there. So they're going to treat it as, we need to do this. And I think that's where the miscommunication, if you will, or
Yeah.
whatever is happening. And that's what's prompting, I'm assuming, Dick, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming that's where you're coming from in this.
Yes, and other builders and developers that are going through town and are going before design review have come up with the same similar situations or with different aspects of their architecture of the building they want to build. And they're getting, direction from design review, and it's not good, knowledgeable information.
We're actually not allowed to make a comment on door color. The only one who ever did that was Tom Reardon on a duplex. He told somebody what color their door had to be, and that was an expert. So I can say, as far as I've been on the design review, no one has ever told anybody what color their building has to be, what color the door has to be.
I know
So
of two totally different builders with two totally different applications on either end of town who've had that same recommendation about the color of doors. And I'd also like to say that, Dave Vernon, I know he's a businessman and he's got a landscape business, but I don't think he's a landscape architect. He's not a licensed landscape architect within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that I can see online. And I know some people that don't know him, and I don't know him personally. I don't think I've ever met the person, but most people I know say he's not a landscape architect. So he's obviously in the business and doing well at it, but it doesn't make it the cut as far as a degreed landscape architect.
I mean, again, I would just have to ask, if not him, who's in the business and knows all the kinds of trees and has so far done a nice job from any application I've ever received, if not him, then who? It's not going to be me. I'm not going to give you any good advice on, what to do or recommendations or know for myself. So if not this group, and assuming we can change the membership or adjust the membership, then who is going to do it? What is the alternate solution? Just no committee at all, and we just figure it out. We struggle to figure out what kind of trees should be there and what's evergreen and what plants go with which. I mean, which one of us on this board is going to do that?
one thing I can say is other towns that don't have design review, they add all these guidelines in as standards. These are now guidelines where the applicants come in front of us 2 and 3 times and they can say, okay, how about this? Or we want to do this, but we don't want to do that. But once they become standards, then you have to do it. And that's what Shrewsbury does. They just put their downtown is you can do A, B, C, D. You can't do this. So it's not even a design guideline anymore. It's now a standard. So we could always do that. If we want to get rid of design review guidelines, I would add all these guidelines into the bylaws. And now they're standards. So the guidelines was more of a friendly way to work out a design with an applicant without having them all be standard. So there's some give and take, but there's definitely 2 ways to do it. And you do want your town to look nice. I mean, I would never tell someone what color door they had to do, what color building, but you do want it to be nice and you want it to be reasonable, both sides. I do know that things have changed since Lori has come because there are a lot of bylaws that she's doing letters for that were items that were overlooked in the past, and people aren't happy about that. And it's not that they're new, it's just that we're finally implementing what's in the guidelines and the bylaws. But, it's up to the town what they want to do. It was a big part of the downtown revitalization because it's mentioned in the downtown revitalization that they want to have more coherency with signs and streetlights and grass and open space. So Yep. Are there anybody, is there anyone in the public that has, any comments? I actually can't see, so I don't know if you guys can see. I can stop sharing the screen.
Nobody has their hand up.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so next step is the planning board, we vote whether to recommend that we agree with this bylaw or we don't recommend. It still goes to town meeting either way, and the town can still agree with us or disagree with us or vote any way they want. But as a board, I think for any citizen's petition, we have to take a vote ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I
I
know,
think on this one, I feel like I hear what Dick Rand is saying about some of the frustration the builders are having, maybe being told one thing and then having to do something else or believing that's what they need to do. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary to disband the entire committee, maybe revisit how it's structured or how it's what the guidelines are, how that's communicated, but I don't know that disbanding it is the right answer to get what we want for our downtown and what we want for our look for our town.
Yeah, I think it's a drastic first step. To the point of groundwater, we had a couple years where we like tried different solutions first before disbanding it. It wasn't it's a drastic first step versus to try to fix some things that maybe could be better. But I don't think it equates to complete getting rid of it. There are just too many consequences for the land use board. It's just, I think the implications of disbanding it is too drastic of a measure based on the issues that I'm hearing. It doesn't sound like things we can't fix by other means, it seems.
I also think that when you look at groundwater, that was a very technical analysis of a piece of property and groundwater and absorption and, mathematical calculations. At the end of it, it's either a yes, it works, or no, it doesn't work. So that's just kind of finite. Whereas I think this is a little bit more give and take. And as to Amy's point, we're using guidelines, which gives guidelines on, hopefully keeping the town coherent, and looking nice together. And again, to Carrie's point, I really wouldn't want this to come back to the planning board to add another hour to every meeting, from 11 to 12 o'clock at night, where you've got a dedicated team looking at it. You do have professionals there. I mean, I was under the impression always that Dave was a landscape architect. And, we've been looking for professionals and architects to fill that board. It's hard. A lot of people don't like to serve. So I think the effort's always been there. And I think it would do the town a disservice to look at disbanding it, certainly at this point.
all right, should we, did you want to say anything, Bill? It's up to you.
I was just looking at one of the articles we have is actually giving design review more power, if you will, within what they have, what their say is. And I'm a little concerned with bringing this up now that, if we don't have, I understand we're loosening the residency requirement, right? That's good. That'll get, some architects in here. But I think one of the other things, correct me if I'm wrong, was that we're removing the need for 2 architects.
Yeah,
Right?
the only reason why 2 architects was added was because Diana and Tom Reardon both wanted to be on it. We didn't have, that was changed a couple years ago. Purposely, because other people wanted to be on it and they both wanted to be on it.
I mean, I can see both sides. I can see Carrie's side where, we're trying to fix it, right? And, this is a huge step, but, we also need to keep in mind that, this is the next step, right? Is getting rid of this if we can't get it to work, because having a non-working board or committee is worse than not having one at all.
I wouldn't go so far to say it's a non-working one.
Yeah, I don't
I
think so.
mean,
I'm a little disappointed. We've met for 3 hours for 4 weeks in a row, working on a rubric to make
Yeah.
it fair for like
Right.
developers and boards. So
And
to
if
say
that
we're
works,
non-working,
no. What I'm saying is if that works, great, then you fixed it, right? But if it doesn't work, then there may be a bigger problem here that we really need to look at.
So maybe that's fair, Bill, but I think we should at least like give it the benefit of at least another year and say like, okay, if we're developing models to make it like a fair across the board, if we're understanding like, oh, recommendations are coming across as must-haves, we need to like make sure that so maybe we try like those pieces
Right.
first before like an immediate cut.
Yep, no,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. But I'm
Yeah.
also saying keep in mind that, 3 years down the road, if this rubric and the changes we're making and the changes we're looking to make don't work,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
may make it better for the town to eliminate this board or committee.
and you'd have to gauge what works and what doesn't work. Like, I know in the past, even when Lori started in this town, she looked at downtown and she's like, look at the setbacks. Some of the buildings are up close, some are out back. You guys have design review. What's been happening? And it's because the design review guidelines weren't followed for many years.
Right.
And
Or we didn't even have any.
we did. We
At
did
those
have
times,
design.
we did.
We've had them since 2012.
Right.
But there were architects and builders on the board who were bringing in their own clients. And I don't know if that's working any better than someone who isn't making any money, who's actually reading the guidelines and says, look, we want the grass out front and we want landscaping and we want the setbacks to be equal. If you read the design review guidelines, you look at your neighbor's building, and if you're building a new building, you're supposed to have a similar setback, so there's some uniformity and some nice design. And I do think that some of the people who signed this citizens petition are the people who didn't want to follow the rules once Lori came in, that made it a little more difficult, or they're used to not having to do it. I can point out, but I won't get into it, but I know one of the things he's talking about.
That's neither here. That's neither here nor there, right? It doesn't matter who signed it; they're residents.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
they're voters, right? And they're
Yeah.
going to be at town meeting. So, my point is that, yeah, I agree. I think we all agree here. We need to fix this, right? There's some more. I mean, just us putting in the article that we're already putting in shows that we're trying to fix this, right? But, let's at least get on notice with everyone on this board that, if it doesn't get fixed, then maybe there's something bigger wrong.
The
And
problem is I don't
we need
see
to
the
ask that
problem.
question, right? Because you're in the middle of it, right? You're deep in the middle of it, and I get that. But others are seeing a problem,
Mhm.
and it's not just the 10 or 11 or 50 or however many are on that petition, right? So
Yeah.
we need to ask the honest question, and if you can't ask the honest question and give an answer, then maybe that's the problem.
No, I would love to get some honest questions with real life scenarios. We'd love that, because I truthfully don't want to
Well,
waste my time if it's not appreciated.
I just gave you one.
What?
The pergola and the shade on the outdoor picnic area. There's one.
But that's what the architects and the landscape architects do all the time.
But
Like,
that was you said yourself, it was a recommendation from your landscape person that there should be shade.
no, he
right.
gave input. He didn't say it had to be. But
Well-
that's what the architects have been doing.
But I think where that would have been
years.
wrong is if
Yeah.
somebody who wasn't the landscape person said, I recommend you put a pergola out. Like, I think that would be the argument, but it actually was the professional who recommended
Yeah.
that. So I think the
Right.
problem is then making sure the applicant understands that's not a directive. That's just a recommendation for you to consider.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
he didn't tell them they had to. And he just said, I've worked on this before and the guys will want shade.
And I don't think that's a bad recommendation.
No,
But-
but then when they put it in, design review said, well, you don't really need that, right? That's the confusing part. That's what needs to go away, right? You can't say one thing, even suggest it, and then say, well, we don't want that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think
'Cause you did
that's
say-
a discourse or discussion that, should happen, whether or not you are mandating it or recommending it. I definitely
Well-
think that could be more clear.
Okay,
But
so Amy, let me ask you this. When they put the pergola in, was the recommendation from design review that they take it out?
No, we wrote a memo with the list of our recommendations. And in that memo, it just said, design review did not recommend a pergola.
Right,
Because
so there you go. It did not recommend. That's my
yeah, but they
point. That's the
recommended
confusion.
shade, Bill Pierce. It was shade. We never said a pergola. And then the fire station committee was saying, design review recommended a pergola. They're adding prices. All we said is we did not recommend a pergola. You can do shade, you can do an umbrella. No one ever once said the word pergola. And we just wanted to make it clear because that's what was being spread, was that we recommended a pergola. I didn't say that we didn't recommend shade. We didn't recommend the pergola. So the fire station committee doesn't have to put 2 pergolas on. That's not what we said.
I think this particular item seems to have been a misunderstanding in what was communicated versus what was being asked to be provided.
Yeah, it
How
wasn't
was
even like a
communicated
memo.
was misunderstood. So, and that can happen whether you have guidelines or not, or experts or not. So, but I feel like I would like to hear if when this goes to town meeting from, I have heard that realtors or builders sometimes have confusion about who do they go to first, because they don't want to go to one meeting, be told one thing, and then have something else come up at another meeting. I do remember correctly or specifically that one of the buildings said, okay, well, we're going to recommend you put bark mulch here. And then another meeting, it became stones. And so those little things can become frustrating for a project. So maybe some more consistency in the recommendations. It's
Yeah.
frustrating.
And with the rubric, it's going to be highlighted with Lori's highlighting what is, one is white and one is gray. And the one that's either white or gray is mandatory because it's a standard, it's in our bylaw. The ones that are gray are guidelines. So the developer can choose, do they want to do it, do they not? This might be a recommendation. You may want shade, but you don't have to do it. Like,
Right.
the guidelines have guidelines, but they're not mandatory. So this rubric is just what's in the guidelines, and then it's going to point out what you have to do and what you don't have to do. You can do it if you want, but you don't have to.
Yep. And I think maybe just making that much more clear is helpful.
Because a lot of times the developers come through, they're not reading all the bylaws.
Right.
And they're not reading even the guidelines. They don't have time. And then they come to the meeting and the board will say you have to do A, B, and C. And they're like, oh, so then they have to do that and come back. So we're hoping with this rubric and check sheet, it will just make it easier for everybody.
Sure.
And if design review goes away, then the check sheet could go with Lori to the planning board of the ZBA. But I do want to say, we've been working, like last week we met from 9 to 1 trying to do this. And if it's a waste of time, then.
Yeah, I don't think he meant, I don't know if I'm going to guess Bill didn't mean that you weren't working as intended, but that it wasn't working as a whole. I could be wrong, but
No, you're exactly right.
that was my take on it, Bill. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
But I think for some people it is working. You know, if you speak to a resident who lives next door and they say that building looks great,
Mhm.
then it worked. But if you speak to someone who may have had to put a pitched roof versus a flat roof, might say, "Oh, that did not work for me." You know, there's two sides to all of it.
Cost output, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Well, I think it's honestly, it's a good discussion to have to see how we can maybe improve what the process is for people, hopefully.
That's what yeah, that's what Mark McMenamy was trying to do with the rubric, and he's working with Lori on it.
Next step.
Right. I was unmuting Bill instead of me. I was pushing the wrong button. It said talk to unmute. But I
I was
was
gonna say, you want me to talk? I'll talk more, but.
no, I was pushing the button and then my screen popped into full screen instead of your face, it was my face. Like it changed. And I'm like, and then I saw it was your face. But either way, so the next step, I guess it would take the board's vote whether or not we support it at town meeting. And so do I have a motion? I don't know. I should probably make a motion to support with a second, and then I don't know. And then people can say yes if you support getting rid of design review, or no if you don't. Are there any more people with their hands up? Do you guys see anyone else?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to support the citizens petition proposal to delete section 703.060 design review in its entirety?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right. Carrie Martinek,
No.
Millie Milton,
I do not.
Bill Pierce,
no.
and Anthony Zaitin,
No.
and I'm a no. So it'll still go to town meeting, and then it will be up to the voters.
Mhm.
And then Dick, I think you have to meet with Fred George, because usually I know with other citizens petitions, if you're gonna have slides or anything, he likes to get them in advance.
Okay, be happy to do that. And again, I apologize for being late tonight. Things got tied up.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing this.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Dick.
Night.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kerry, before you got here, we went through the rest of the bylaw. So there was nothing, I mean, the rest of the agenda, except for all the other zoning amendments are still open. The public hearing, I don't know. We considered closing the public hearing, but I just wanted to, I waited till you got here in case there was anything.
I don't know, do you envision we need to meet on them anytime between now and town meeting, or probably not? I don't know.
Probably
I
not.
don't have a strong opinion either way. I don't know if you guys already talked about it. Sorry I was late tonight.
But what?
I'm sorry if you already talked about it. I'm sorry I was late. Did you guys already have an opinion on whether or not, or discuss it?
We really didn't.
I don't feel super strongly. It's no harm to leave it open, I guess, but I don't know if we need it open.
And I don't know if we leave it open, does that mean we have to meet before town meeting and close it? Like,
Do we have one more meeting, the 16th?
oh, we do.
We do.
Yeah. Maybe just till the 16th, because well, my suggestion for the 16th would be, let's just make sure we have our, everybody's nailed down for who's presenting and make sure the slides are what we need. I don't know, did Lori send out a revised version of that? So does anybody need to review their slides or edit them or anything like that?
I might. I did email actually Lori today and ask for a copy.
Okay,
So I know the version that she has online looks like it's in order.
oh, okay. But Bill, yours changed specifically because now you have a new map.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's right in the front there.
Okay. I don't know, so maybe we leave it open for that one and close it then, once we have, like, in case anybody sees something on the presentation that in a small error, of course, we could always make amendment on the floor if there's some sort of small typo or something.
I was thinking we can't amend anything anyways at this point because it's already been approved by the
Approved.
select board.
Yeah.
So the only reason we're leaving it open is if anyone from the public wants to make additional comments.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we can't change anything.
It's weird because I don't know why in the past with Kathy, when I was on it, we would leave it open to town meeting floor. I mean, to the night of, we used to meet early, and I swear we could make changes up until then, but it probably was just to agree to do an amendment on the floor.
Yeah, or we remember the one year we printed I wasn't on the board then, I think you were, Amy, they printed the slips. We had like special slips to print, so
Hmm.
I don't feel strongly either way.
Hmm. I guess it doesn't hurt to leave it open until next meeting.
If it matters, I just kind of realized now that I am traveling that week and will not be able to attend the 16th. Does that make any difference for you?
I don't think we'll have any business with it. We're not re-voting on them. It's
Sure.
just a
Oh,
matter
it's just
of,
basically approving it.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Amy, I keep jumping over you out of habit.
Oh no, I'm happy to pass the torch back. Even like during this last presentation with design review too, I was like, do I pass it back to you? I didn't know what to do. So yeah. You know what I wanted to do, and I'll look at it one last time, is look at the Highway Business Southwest map, only because I was reading the 2008 minutes before to figure out when design review was started. And they were talking about the map up there and making sure it lined and everything. So I was like, oh, I should go back and check that map one last time. Because they had a lot of discussion on whether they do an overlay or whether they had changed it, the zoning.
Wait, you're saying 2008?
Yeah, it was 2008. But I just want that, but that triggered in my mind that I just want to check that Highway Business Southwest map one last time before closing the meeting. I'm not going to change it. I just want to look at it. Did you guys look at the final map that Lori sent out? I don't know if I saw it. Like which parcels it actually is including.
The one that she sent out today?
No, it's probably online, the Highway Business Southwest.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to look it up. I didn't have time today. Because there were some changes on, I don't know if the gravel pit's in it, everything's in it. I just want to look at it one last time.
mm.
But there's nothing sent out today that I saw. So, are we waiting for me still? I thought I passed the torch back to you, Carrie.
Oh, I
No.
didn't.
I thought you were pulling up the map.
I'm just sitting
You
here.
were kind of like, wow,
So I
that's
think, so maybe I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing for the zoning bylaws until April 17th at 6 o'clock,
No, the 16th.
April 16th,
Let's double check that.
2 weeks. Yep, you're right. April, good thing. You said that. April 16th at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Carrie Martinik,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
hi.
Bill Pierce,
aye.
Anthony Zaitin,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So I guess we'll finish that up the next meeting. Does anybody else have anything they want to say tonight? Anything to add? Okay.
Good job chairing.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks for the help looking for the raised hands and everything else. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Carrie Martinik,
Aye.
Millie Milton,
Aye.
Bill Pierce,
Aye.
and Anthony Zaitin.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. See you guys in 2 weeks.
See you.
Okay,
Bye.
good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye, guys.